So wait, this furless ape just petted the galaxy's apex predator like it was a tamed Woolock pup, and it didn't maul him to pieces? The insectoid council member clacked his mandibles in disbelief. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with excited chatter and shocked gasps. Dozens of alien species, representing the breadth of civilized life, couldn't believe what they were hearing. On the chamber's central holo display, footage looped showing a leather-jacketed human explorer, Jordan Stevens, fearlessly scratching the belly of a monstrous creature that had brought ruin to 100 worlds, the dreaded Evora dreadnought beast. The titanic fanged monstrosity, bioengineered for war, rolled over to expose its softer underbelly to the human's touch like an overgrown puppy. "It's true," replied Zorkux, the council speaker, his compound eyes fixed on Jordan. "When we sent this human to infiltrate the Evora's beast weaponizing operation on Zorgax, we expected sabotage, subterfuge, and violence. But instead, he befriended it." The reptilian councillor Murloc spoke up, his forked tongue flicking. "We chose Stevens for his reputation as an expert xenobiologist and beast tamer, but this is beyond anything we imagined. No species has ever pacified an adult dreadnought beast. They are engines of pure destruction." Jordan shrugged, running a hand through his shaggy hair. "Hey, it's what I do. Bandit just needed some love and care. Turns out even giant murder beasts melt for a good belly rub and a kind word." The councillors erupted into a frenzy of multilingual chatter. Some praised the human's audacity, while others decried his recklessness. Zorkux smacked his gavel, demanding order. "Quiet. What matters is that the human prevented the beast from being unleashed as a weapon. The Evora's plans are in ruins. An interstellar war has been averted." "So what now?" Jordan asked, leaning back in his floating pod chair. "I can't exactly take Bandit back to Earth as a pet. My apartment's barely big enough for me." Zorquax's antennae twitched. "Indeed, the beast's fate is a conundrum, as are the consequences of your actions, Jordan Stevens. The Council must deliberate on how to proceed. In the meantime, you are to remain on Nexus Prime Station." As the Council dismissed, an uneasy tension filled the air. For eons, the galactic community had feared the dreadnought beast as an unstoppable force of destruction. But today, a human had shown them the impossible, that even the most terrifying monster might be tamed with compassion and courage. The question remained, what would this mean for the delicate balance of power in the cosmos? Only time would tell. Jordan gathered his team in the cargo hold of the sleek stealth ship provided by the Council. Rix, the tech-savvy Voxian, was busy calibrating the ship's cloaking device. Zephyr, the stealthy avian scout, preened her feathers as she studied a holomap of Zorgax. Grok, the burly Ursine mercenary, checked his plasma rifle for the 100th time. "Listen up," Jordan said, his voice low and serious. "We're about to face a creature that's the stuff of nightmares. The dreadnought beast, 30 feet tall, with claws that can slice through titanium and a hide that can shrug off plasma bolts. And let's not forget the venomous fangs." Grok growled, "We can handle it. We didn't come all this way to turn back now." Jordan shook his head. "I'm not suggesting we turn back, but we need to be smart about this. Brute force won't work against this thing. We need to understand it." He pulled up a holo display of the beast, highlighting its behavior patterns. "Look here, notice how it always positions itself between threats and its nest? It's fiercely protective of its young. That's our key." Rix tilted his head quizzically. "You want to use its offspring against it?" "Not exactly," Jordan replied. "I want to show it that we're not a threat to its young. If we can gain its trust, we might have a chance of neutralizing it without bloodshed." Zephyr ruffled her feathers skeptically. "And how do you propose we do that? Waltz up to it with a bouquet of flowers?" Jordan grinned. "Something like that, but first, we need to get inside that Evora research facility." As the ship approached Zorgax, Zephyr used her keen eyesight to scout out the heavily guarded facility, nestled deep within the planet's bioluminescent jungle. Rix's deft manipulations of the ship's advanced systems allowed them to slip past the Evora's defenses undetected. Once inside, they crept through the dimly lit corridors, following the sounds of agonized roars. They emerged into a vast chamber, where the dreadnought beast thrashed against the confines of a shimmering force field cage. The magnificent creature's obsidian scales gleamed in the eerie light, its red eyes blazing with fury. Around the cage, ever a scientist scurried about, jabbing the beast with shock prods and extracting samples from its hide. At the center of the chaos stood Director Murlock, his reptilian face twisted into a cruel sneer. Jordan's fists clenched at the sight of the beast's torment. He knew that the creature's rage was born of pain and fear, not inherent malice, and in that moment he swore he would do whatever it took to free it from its captors and show the galaxy that even the most terrifying monsters deserved compassion. But to do that, he would have to get closer to the beast than anyone had ever dared. Close enough to look into those fiery eyes and convince it that he meant no harm. It was a gamble, but one he was willing to take. Jordan turned to his team, his gaze determined. "Here's the plan." Jordan nodded to his team. "Grok, set off those charges we planted in the lab wing. Rix, jam their security feeds. Zephyr, find a perch and be ready to cover me." Grok grinned, his furry finger hovering over a detonator. With a click, distant booms shook the facility. Alarms blared as Evora guards scrambled to investigate. Rix's long fingers danced over a holo display, the camera feed stuttering before looping innocuously. Zephyr spread her wings, soaring up to an overhanging catwalk. Jordan approached the crackling force field, the caged beast snarling at his approach. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a small metallic disc. With a tap, the hologram of a mewling dreadnought hatchling sprang to life, its cries echoing in the chamber. The beast froze, its head snapping towards the sound. It let out a rumbling growl, its stance shifting as it tried to place itself between the hologram and Jordan. "Easy, big fella," Jordan murmured in the beast's guttural tongue. "I'm not here to hurt your little one." The beast snorted, its eyes narrowing. Jordan held out a hand, palm up in a universal gesture of peace. "I know what it's like to want to protect something precious. I want to help you." Slowly the beast's hackles lowered. It cocked its head, a low whine escaping its throat. Jordan took a step closer, his heart pounding. Suddenly the doors burst open. Director Murlock stormed in, flanked by a squad of armored Evora soldiers. "Seize the human," he snarled. "Contain the beast." Plasma bolts filled the air as Zephyr opened fire from above. Grok charged the soldiers with a roar, his massive fists sending them flying. Rix dove for cover, his fingers flying over his wrist computer as he tried to jam their weapons. In the chaos, Jordan lunged for the force field controls. With a crackle, the barrier fell. The beast surged forward with a roar, its fangs bared. Jordan threw himself between the beast and the charging soldiers, his arms spread wide. "Stop!" he shouted in both Terran and Evorian. "This ends now!" The Evora soldiers charged forward, plasma rifles spitting searing bolts of energy. Jordan held his ground, the dreadnought beast's hulking form rising behind him. The beast let out a deafening roar that shook the very foundations of the facility. Jordan stretched out his hand, fingers splayed, and gently touched the beast's snout. The leathery skin was warm, thrumming with the creature's powerful heartbeat. For a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, to the shock of everyone present, the dreadnought beast leaned into Jordan's touch, its eyes half closing as if savoring the contact. A rumble, almost like a purr, emanated from its throat. Jordan seized the moment. He vaulted onto the beast's back, his hands finding purchase on the ridges of its armored hide. With a series of clicks and whistles, he urged the creature forward. The dreadnought beast surged into motion, its claws rending the metal floor. It barreled into the Evora soldiers, scattering them like ragdolls. Plasma bolts ricocheted off its scales as it plowed through their ranks. Director Murlock, his face contorted with rage, leveled his rifle at Jordan. But before he could fire, Zephyr dove from above, her talons raking across his face. The rifle clattered to the ground. Grok and Rix, having dispatched the last of the soldiers, sprinted to join Jordan. They leaped onto the beast's back, clinging on as it rampaged through the facility's walls and out into the bioluminescent jungle. The dense foliage parted before the dreadnought beast like water. Bioluminescent leaves and vines shimmered as they were crushed beneath its feet. Behind them, the shouts of Evora reinforcements grew louder. Jordan leaned low over the beast's neck, his voice a constant murmur of encouragement. The creature responded to his commands, weaving between the glowing trees, its tail lashing out to topple trunks and create obstacles for their pursuers. Plasma bolts sizzled through the undergrowth, but the dreadnought beast's bulk shielded Jordan and his team. It was as if the beast understood their peril and was determined to protect them. As they burst from the tree line, the stealth ship came into view, its black hull nearly invisible against the night sky. Jordan urged the beast onward, praying they would reach it before the Evora's ships could scramble. But as they approached the ramp, Jordan realized he couldn't leave the dreadnought beast behind. Not after all it had done for them, not when he knew the Evora would never stop hunting it. He leaped from the beast's back, landing in front of it. The creature skidded to a halt, its hot breath washing over him. Jordan placed his hand on its snout once more, looking into those crimson eyes. "I can't let them take you again," he said softly. "Will you trust me one last time?" The dreadnought beast stared at him for a long moment. Then, incredibly, it lowered its head, allowing Jordan to guide it up the ramp and into the ship's cavernous cargo hold. Grok and Rix exchanged incredulous glances, but there was no time for questions. They raced to the cockpit, firing up the engines. Zephyr took the controls, her talons dancing over the console. The ship lifted off, its cloaking field shimmering to life. Evora fighters streaked past, their scanners blind to the human vessel's presence. Jordan stood by the viewport, watching Zorgax dwindle beneath them. In the cargo hold, the dreadnought beast settled onto the metal floor, its eyes never leaving Jordan. It was a sight Jordan had never thought he'd see. A creature of legend, a being of terror and destruction, curled up in his ship like an oversized pet. As Zephyr plotted a course for Nexus Prime, Jordan knew his mission was far from over. He had to convince the Galactic Council of the importance of protecting the dreadnought beast and its kind. He had to find a way to stop the Evora's warmongering once and for all. But for now, as the stars streaked past the viewport and the beast's steady breathing filled the hold, Jordan allowed himself a moment of triumph. Against all odds, he had done the impossible. He had befriended a monster. And in doing so, he might just have changed the course of the galaxy. As the stealth ship glided into Nexus Prime's orbital docks, Jordan felt a mix of trepidation and determination. He knew the sight of him riding the dreadnought beast would cause a stir, but he was ready to fight for the creature's future. The ship's ramp lowered, and Jordan strode out, the beast padding alongside him. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd of dignitaries and councillors. Some stepped back in fear, while others leaned forward, eyes wide with wonder. In the council chambers, the debate raged. Jordan stood at the center of the room, the beast crouched behind him. Councillor Murlock, his reptilian features twisted with contempt, slammed his fist on his podium. "This human's actions are a threat to galactic stability," he hissed. "These beasts are uncontrollable, dangerous. They must be exterminated for the safety of all." Jordan's eyes narrowed. He tapped a control on his wrist and a holographic display sprang to life. Images of the Evora's brutal experiments played out, beasts subjected to agonizing procedures, their roars of pain echoing through the chamber. "The only threat here is the Evora's cruelty," Jordan said, his voice low but firm. "They seek to weaponize these magnificent creatures for their own gain. But I have shown that they can be understood, even befriended." He laid a hand on the beast's snout and it rumbled softly. Several councillors gasped. As the debate continued, opinion began to sway in Jordan's favor. But just as the council seemed poised to vote, an urgent transmission cut through the chamber. On the viewscreen, a Voxian commander appeared, his feathers ruffled with panic. "Nexus Prime, we are under attack. The Evora have launched a full-scale invasion, and they're using dreadnought beasts. Jordan's blood ran cold. On the screen, a swarm of Evora ships descended on the Voxian homeworld, dozens of dreadnought beasts visible in their holds, their eyes glowing an unnatural red. The council erupted into chaos. Zorkux called for order, his voice booming over the din. "Silence, we must act swiftly. Commander Stevens, gather your team and any willing allies. You must defend the Voxians and put an end to this madness." Jordan nodded grimly. He turned to his beast, looking into its crimson eyes. "Looks like we've got one more fight ahead of us, big fella." Minutes later, Jordan and his team were back aboard the stealth ship, a ragtag fleet of Allied vessels forming up around them. Rix worked furiously at the comms, coordinating their approach with the Voxian defenses. Grok and Zephyr checked their weapons, faces set with grim determination. As they dropped out of warp above the Voxian homeworld, the scale of the battle became clear. Evora ships swarmed like angry insects, disgorging their mind-controlled beasts onto the planet's surface. The Voxian fleet fought back valiantly, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. Jordan and his beast launched from the ship's hold, hurtling into the fray. They weaved through the chaos of ships and plasma fire, the beast's powerful claws and tail smashing Evora vessels asunder. All around them, the mind-controlled beasts rampaged, their once proud forms twisted into instruments of destruction. Jordan's heart ached at the sight, but he steeled himself. He and his companion fought as one, a dance of claws and fangs and human ingenuity. But the Evora had one last cruel trick to play. From the flagship, a massive cannon emerged, its barrel glowing with malevolent energy. It swiveled, locking onto Jordan and his beast. Time seemed to slow. Jordan saw the cannon fire, saw the searing beam lance towards them. He braced for impact, but his beast had other plans. With a mighty roar, the creature shoved Jordan aside, taking the full brunt of the blast. Its hide sizzled and cracked, its roar turning to an agonized shriek. Jordan screamed, uncomprehending. The beast, mortally wounded, fixed him with one last look. In those crimson eyes, Jordan saw understanding, sorrow, and a fierce, final determination. With its last strength, the beast hurled itself at the Evora flagship, its body glowing like a small sun. It collided with the ship's hull, and a blinding explosion lit the void. When the light faded, the flagship was gone, reduced to drifting atoms. The remaining Evora ships, their control signal lost, fell into disarray. The Voxian fleet surged forward, hope renewed. But Jordan barely noticed. He drifted in the void, numb with grief. His companion, his friend, was gone, sacrificed to save him, to save them all. In the aftermath of the battle, the Galactic Council reconvened. The chamber was somber, the weight of recent events heavy on every heart. Zorkux, his voice heavy with emotion, called for a vote. In light of the dreadnought beast's crucial role in defending the Voxian people and the clear evidence of their capacity for understanding and cooperation, I propose we designate them a protected species. Their habitats will be inviolate, their interactions with other races strictly regulated. The vote was unanimous. Even Councillor Murlock, chastened by the Evora's defeat and the beast's sacrifice, raised his hand in assent. Jordan, his eyes red-rimmed and his heart heavy, stepped forward. "I will take responsibility for overseeing their conservation. No one will ever again exploit or abuse these noble creatures." And so, as the council session ended, Jordan found himself with a new mission. He would scour the galaxy, seeking out the remaining dreadnought beast populations. He would study them, protect them, and ensure that their sacrifice would never be forgotten. As he boarded his ship, a new resolve settled over him. The galaxy had changed, and he had changed with it. The bond he had forged with a creature once feared as a monster would echo through the ages, a testament to the power of understanding and the courage to see beyond the surface. The stars stretched out before him, infinite and filled with promise. Jordan smiled sadly, remembering crimson eyes and a rumbling purr. Then he plotted his course and set off into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy had in store. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.